Welcome back, everyone. Today we continue with the next part of this series called What If Goku Remember the Saiyans? Let's aim for 400 likes on this one. Also, don't forget to leave a comment letting me know if you've enjoyed the series thus far. With that, let's continue. I honestly don't know, Kami replied. My powers as guardian sometimes let me see threats coming, but not very clearly. What is known is that if you are to protect this planet, you need to start reaching your true potential. I have designed a training program, taking your heritage into account. So, I will once again ask if you will stay up here and train for the next 3 years, Kakarot grimaced. While he desperately wanted to see Bulma again, he knew it was his responsibility to protect this planet, especially if Frieza was involved. If what the Guardian said was true, he had led the threat here. All right, he finally said. I'm in. Good, Kami said. Popo, fetch the dragon model so it can be repaired. Kakarot focused his mind, drawing inward in deep meditation. For the past year, he had been training up on Kami's lookout. Most of the training had been more mentally than physically challenging. That didn't surprise the young Saiyan since he was already stronger than both the Guardian and his servant. At first, Kakarot had wanted to continue sparring with Mr. Popo, but Kami had said the boy needed to focus inward before he could truly become powerful outward. A presence appeared behind him. The person was absolutely silent, but Kakarot had learned to sense energy, so it was no surprise when Popo spoke. Kami has a new test for you. Kakarot's eyes shot open, and he rose to his feet. Test? He asked. Kami thinks you are mentally ready to start the next phase of your training, Popo replied. We will be going into the pendulum room. What's the pendulum room? Kakarot asked, curiosity piqued. It is a room that bends the fabric of space and time, Popo explained. Inside it are shadows of the past and present from many different places in the universe. So it's a portal somewhere? Kakarot asked. Sorta, Popo replied. You will not physically leave, but your spirit will be transported to a new destination to fight an opponent. It will seem like you are there, and if you get hit, you will feel the blows as if they were real. So, who am I fighting? Kakarot asked, excitement building. I figured we'd start with a member of your own race, Kami said, approaching Kakarot and Popo. A Saiyan? Kakarot said, his excitement growing. Yeah, Kami confirmed. Let's get started then, Kakarot said, genuine excitement in his voice. He followed Popo and Kami into a strange room with clocks all over the floor, walls, and ceiling. Minutes later, Popo and Kami exited and closed the door. Lights flashed, and the landscape around Kakarot warped into an arid wasteland. In the distance, Kakarot could sense several large power levels, but one seemed much closer. What have we here? A gruff voice said from behind Kakarot. Why aren't you with your mission team? Kakarot turned to see a tall man wearing armor similar to his own. The armor was white with red shoulder and thigh pads. A scouter covered his eye, and his black spiky hair stuck out in all directions, reaching his shoulders, unlike Kakarot's shorter hair. The man's tail was wrapped neatly around his waist, just like Kakarot's. I'm just exploring, Kakarot said in response to the man's question. You filthy whelp, the large Saiyan sneered. I'll teach you to disobey orders. The man's fist shot at Kakarot faster than anything he had ever seen. Kakarot barely dodged the first blow, but he wasn't as lucky with the next one. The Saiyan's knee slammed into Kakarot's gut, causing him to spit out blood involuntarily. Kakarot gasped at the pain. He had never been hit so hard in his life, but he had been hit before and knew he had to respond. While the older Saiyan was still laughing, Kakarot put all his energy into an uppercut and caught the man square on the chin. The man's head tilted upwards, but he was otherwise unaffected. Kakarot cursed at the ineffectiveness of his blow. How strong is this guy? He thought. Before he could think any further, the Saiyan was throwing a flurry of kicks and punches at him. Kakarot cleared his mind and focused on blocking the incoming attacks. He managed to block some, but the blows were too numerous and too fast to anticipate them all. Soon enough, one landed hard on his face, sending him sprawling across the landscape into a cliff face. Kakarot pulled himself from the rubble and charged back at the larger Saiyan, shooting an energy-enhanced fist at his stomach. The blow was caught before it could land. The man grinned as he squeezed Kakarot's fist, producing a satisfying crunch. Kakarot winced in pain as his hand was crushed. The Saiyan never let up, continuing to beat him mercilessly until everything went dark. Kakarot awoke on the floor of the pendulum room, sweating and sore. Everything had felt so real in there. He quickly examined himself and found that nothing was broken. You did well, Kami said, entering the room. That's not surprising, Kami replied calmly. After all, the opponent you were fighting was nearly 3 times stronger than you. What? Kakarot exclaimed. How was I supposed to win against someone so strong? You weren't, Kami said. The point of this exercise was to show you what it's like to fight someone stronger than you. Kami cleared his throat before continuing. You haven't run into that much on this planet. No one here can challenge you to the extent needed. So you want me to keep training in here? Kakarot asked. No, Kami said. The point of this exercise was to test your skills and to make you understand that there are beings out there much stronger than you. That was a low-class Saiyan warrior. There are many out there who are much stronger than the one you faced. Like Frieza, Kakarot said, his voice filled with icy determination. Yes, Kami began, his voice heavy with the weight of the universe. Frieza is unimaginably strong. He wiped out the entire Saiyan race, beings mostly stronger than the one you faced, without any effort. Kami's intense gaze locked onto Kakarot's eyes. The point of this exercise is to make you understand what we're up against. Any one of Frieza's men could be as strong, or even stronger, than the warrior you fought. So you want me to keep training in there until I can beat him, right? Kakarot asked, a determined spark in his eye. No, Kami replied calmly. If you haven't noticed, the pendulum room has little effect on the physical world. Kakarot's brow furrowed in confusion. What do you mean? Remember when you were beaten by Android Tao? Kami prompted. When you healed from that, you were much stronger. Kakarot nodded. Yes, it's a Saiyan trait. We get stronger after every battle. Yet, you fought a much stronger opponent in the pendulum room and did not get any stronger, Kami stated, watching the realization dawn on Kakarot's face. Understanding flooded through Kakarot. Since the pendulum room wasn't real, his power hadn't increased from the fight, even though he'd been nearly beaten to death. I see, he murmured. So, Kami continued, I want you to keep focusing your mind with Mr. Popo, but you need to increase your training. Are you familiar with the multiform technique? Somewhat, Kakarot replied. Tien used it against me in the last tournament, but it didn't work because each copy was weaker. Even when they teamed up, I could easily keep up with them. Yes, Kami said, but I want you to use that technique to be your own opponent when you spar. Popo and I cannot keep up with you, but if you spar with the multiform, you will have an opponent of equal strength. It may not be enough to fully challenge your Saiyan heritage, but it will give you a decent challenge. Kakarot nodded, his resolve clear. All right, I'll get on it. Wait, Kami said, stopping him. Kakarot turned to see Mr. Popo presenting him with a new fighting uniform. What's this? He asked, curious. This is what you'll wear for training from now on, Kami explained. Kakarot picked up the fighting clothes, inspecting the green jumpsuit that looked just like the one Master Roshi had given him, except for the symbol on the back. Instead of Roshi's emblem, it bore Kami's symbol. The real difference was the undershirt, wristbands, and boots. Kakarot staggered as Popo handed them to him. They were incredibly heavy. Ah, smell that fresh air, Roshi exclaimed as he exited the car at the World Martial Arts Tournament. Much better than being cooped up on that plane. I agree, Master, Grandpa Gohan said, following the old turtle hermit. I can't wait to see Kakarot compete this year, he continued enthusiastically. I wish I had made it to the last two tournaments. It's okay, Roshi assured him, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. I'm sure Kakarot knew you were rooting for him. I would have been here if I'd known he was entering. News travels slow where I live, Grandpa Gohan admitted, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Well, maybe if you'd stay in touch more often, you wouldn't be 6 years out of date. Roshi scolded his former student, shaking his head. Boys, please, Bulma interrupted as she climbed out of the car behind them. She was tired of the constant bickering and Roshi's attempts to grope her. More than anything, she hoped to see Kakarot again, not only because of the longing in her heart and her loins, but also to have someone young and not perverted to talk to. She hoped the young Sen hadn't forgotten about her. Dying and coming back to life had been hard enough. At the young age of 20, she didn't know if she could handle being abandoned by her lover. Her thoughts were interrupted by a pair of hands covering her eyes. Guess who? Said a voice that was both familiar and new at the same time. The hands were strong and calloused, the arms muscular. Bulma knew instantly who it was. You're back, she whispered, spinning around. Instead of the familiar face she expected, she was met with a massive chest covered by a green GI and a black undershirt. She looked up, realizing her mistake. Kakarot now stood a full head taller than her and had grown even more handsome over the past 3 years. He was no longer the boy she remembered. He was now a man. Before she could finish, Kakarot placed a finger on her trembling lips. I've missed you too, he said softly. I never stopped thinking about you while I was training with Kami. I wish I could have come back sooner, but Bulma stopped him this time. I understand, she said. Krillin told me you were called to train with Kami. I figured it must be important if the Guardian of Earth wanted to see you. Yes, it was very serious, Kakarot replied, his tone deadly serious. Then his face softened into a smile. But now that we're together again, there's something I must do. The young Saiyan dropped to one knee and pulled a small box from his gi. Bulma, my love, when I lost you, I didn't know if I could go on. My only thought was getting you back. I swear that I will never let anything happen to you again. I want to be with you always. Will you be my wife? Bulma's face showed her shock, but it quickly melted into a smile. She extended her hand, allowing Kakarot to place the ring on her finger. Of course I will, she said, pulling him to his feet and planting a deep kiss on her long-lost lover. Several minutes later, after the initial shock of the proposal had worn off, Kakarot and Bulma walked arm in arm up to the registration booth, followed closely by Roshi and Grandpa Gohan. I'd like to sign up to compete, Kakarot told the attendant. Why, of course sir, the attendant replied. Can I have your name? Kakarot, the young Sen said confidently. The returning champion, Kakarot, the attendant asked, eyes wide with surprise. Yes, Kakarot confirmed with a nod. Of course sir, the attendant said, looking a bit sheepish. It's just that you're much taller than you were 3 years ago. Kakarot grinned. Quite all right. He then turned to Roshi and Grandpa Gohan. So, you old-timers going to compete? No, Roshi said with a chuckle. I'm content just to watch. I didn't really stand much of a chance 3 years ago against you. I doubt I'd even be in the same league as you after your training with Kami. Grandpa Gohan nodded as well. I haven't seen you fight in years, my boy. But if you're as strong as Master Roshi says, I wouldn't stand a chance at all against you. I'll be content to watch as well. It's all right, boys, Bulma said with a smile. You can root for Kakarot from the front row with me. Where are Yamcha and Krillin? Kakarot asked, looking at Master Roshi. Weren't they training? They only stayed around long enough to gather the Dragon Balls, and wish Bulma and all the fighters that Piccolo killed back to life. Then they went off with Tien and Kaozu to train on their own. It was just as well. There wasn't much more I could teach them anyway. They have also surpassed my teachings. As if summoned by the conversation, 4 blurs swept by before coming to a sudden halt. In the space, empty a second ago, now stood Tien, Yamcha, Krillin, and Kaozu. Hey fellas, Yamcha said cheerfully. Long time no see. Hey guys, Kakarot said, greeting his friends with a big smile. You've definitely gotten taller, Yamcha said, looking up at the man who had replaced the kid he'd known. And here I thought I'd be the tall one, Krillin joked. The night passed quickly and uneventfully, filled with laughter and catching up with old friends. Soon, it was time for the preliminary rounds of the tournament. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer said enthusiastically, our attendance is much smaller than it was last year due to some unpleasantness after the last tournament, but I'm sure the caliber of fighters we have this year will make up for the dwindling numbers. Kakarot looked around the arena, surveying the other fighters. He noticed several weak fighters milling around the room, but soon his attention focused on 2 fighters. One was a tall green alien with pointy ears, wearing a turban and cape, with a permanent scowl on his face. He was the spitting image of King Piccolo. Kami had filled him in on how the demon had created a spawn before being destroyed. He had also mentioned that he and the demon spawn were linked. If Piccolo Jr. was destroyed, Kami would also be destroyed. Kakarot didn't know how he was going to stop him and still keep the Guardian of Earth safe. A second later, Kakarot's attention was drawn to another fighter standing in the corner, looking around. This fighter was a darker green than Piccolo and had the head of an alligator. He wore a simple black fighting uniform and stared at Kakarot with anticipation. We'll begin by drawing numbers, the announcer said. The fighters will face off in single elimination combat. The 2 winners from each bracket will advance to the finals. Chaozu, Tien whispered. Make sure none of us fight each other until the finals. All right, Tien, the little emperor replied, using his telepathic powers to fix the numbers in the box. The preliminary rounds had been fairly uneventful for the first several fights. Chaozu stepped into the ring for his 3rd fight of the preliminaries, his heart sinking when he saw his opponent. Standing across from him was none other than Mercenary Tao. The man looked more machine than human with replacement eyes, arms, and legs. So, we meet again, traitor, Tao sneered. As soon as the bell rang, the assassin shot at Chaozu with lightning speed, striking the young fighter with unparalleled ferocity. The little emperor was down, unmoving, with the first blow. No, Chaozu, Tien shouted, seeing his friend go down. Don't worry, he's not dead, Tao said, walking down from the ring. I would be disqualified if he were to die, but rest assured, after I humiliate you in the tournament, I will finish all of you off. I'll get you for that, Tien swore, his eyes burning with rage. We'll see, Tao replied with a smirk. I thought he was dead, Krillin commented, looking shocked. I thought so too, Kakarot said. Apparently, he's pretty durable. You think he's gotten stronger? Yamcha asked, eyeing Tao suspiciously. I don't know, Kakarot said. I can't read him very much. Even the scouter couldn't get anything on him last time. It must be the mechanical parts interfering. Kakarot grimaced, wishing he hadn't left the scouter on the lookout. While he had learned to sense energy from Kami, it still wasn't perfected. He may be strong, Kakarot said, but I don't think he's the one to worry about in this tournament. The rest of the preliminary fights went by uneventfully, and soon it was time to announce the fighters advancing to the finals. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer declared, our matchups will be as follows: Tao vs Tien, Kakarot vs Chi-Chi, Junior vs Krillin, Yamcha vs Chomper. We're all looking forward to the matches. Chi-Chi, Yamcha said, glancing at the tall brunette who had been announced to advance to the finals. As in the Ox King's daughter Chi-Chi. That's right, the girl said, walking up to the fighters. I was wondering when you would recognize me. Well, you've grown a lot, Yamcha said, a bit taken aback. Chi-Chi blushed. Yes, I have, she replied. And you've gotten more handsome too. It was Yamcha's turn to blush. He remembered when they had been searching for the Dragon Balls. Chi-Chi had had a crush on him, but she had only been a kid then. This definitely wasn't a kid standing before him today. You're welcome to join us and watch the fights, he said. While you're not fighting, that is. I'd like that, Chi-Chi said with a smile. Kakarot turned from the reunion and stared at the mysterious fighter now known as Chomper. He's strong, Tien said, staring at the fighter as well. Yes, he is, Kakarot agreed. Any idea who he is? Tien asked, curiosity evident in his voice. Not really, Kakarot said, but he isn't friendly, and I think I know why he's here. Why's that? The Triclops asked. He's here for me, Kakarot said, his eyes narrowing with determination. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice boomed through the arena. Today, we have an exciting match for you. In one corner, we have the brother of Master Shen of the Crane School, Mercenary Tao. Facing off against Tao is a former student of the Crane Hermit, Tien. There seems to be some rivalry between these two. Which one will come out the winner today? The crowd buzzed with anticipation as Tao dusted off his clothes, preparing for the fight. His mechanical parts gleamed under the arena lights, a testament to the miracle work of Dr. Gerp. Tao had been one of the most feared assassins, but his previous encounter with Kakarot had left him broken. However, thanks to Dr. Gerp, he had been rebuilt, more powerful than ever, and now he sought revenge. Ready? Fight! The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. Tao wasted no time, launching himself at Tien with a barrage of kicks and punches. Tien, focused and calm, blocked the attacks with precision, barely moving from his spot. With a swift backhand, Tien aimed for Tao's head, but Tao blocked it just in time. Tien didn't let up. He drove his knee into Tao's stomach, causing the mercenary to double over in pain. Before Tao could catch his breath, Tien brought both hands down in a powerful double-axe handle, sending Tao crashing into the ring floor with a loud thud. And Tien lands the first blow of the fight, the announcer exclaimed. Will Tao recover, or is it all over for him? As the dust settled, Tao struggled to his feet, a scowl forming on his face. You've ripped my clothes, he snarled. Now you'll pay for that. With a fierce tug, he tore off his tattered shirt, revealing his muscular torso. He took a fighting stance, eyes blazing with anger. Tien remained silent and charged at Tao, unleashing a series of rapid kicks and punches. Tao dodged and blocked as best as he could, but Tien's speed was overwhelming. Tao had underestimated him. I'm going to kill you, Tao yelled, revealing a hidden blade as his left robotic hand detached and transformed. There are no weapons allowed in the match, the announcer declared. Mercenary Tao is disqualified. Ignoring the announcer, Tao continued to slash at Tien with the blade. Tien dodged expertly, his movements fluid and controlled. I'm going to help him, Krillin said, worry in his voice. No, Kakarot said firmly. This is Tien's fight. But the match is over, Krillin argued. Tao is trying to kill him. Trying is the key word, Kakarot replied, eyes never leaving the ring. Tien can handle this. Back in the ring, Tien was still evading Tao's wild slashes. Tao swung again, but Tien's after-image vanished, and Tien appeared behind him, driving a powerful kick into Tao's side, sending him flying. Before Tao could react, Tien was in front of him, gripping the blade with one hand. With a burst of energy, Tien snapped the blade in half, disarming Tao. Give up now, Tien said calmly. You can't win. That's what you think, Tao shouted, his other hand transforming into a cannon. You won't survive the Super Dodon Wave. We'll see, Tien replied, bracing himself. Super Dodon Wave, Tao yelled, firing a massive blast at Tien. Dodon Wave, Tien countered, fearing his own beam. The two beams collided, pushing against each other with immense force. Slowly but surely, Tien's beam began to overpower Tao's. The combined energy surged back towards Tao, engulfing him in a huge explosion. Tien didn't wait for the smoke to clear. He charged in, delivering blow after powerful blow to Tao. When the smoke finally dissipated, Tao lay unconscious at Tien's feet. Tien picked up the defeated warrior and carried him over to where Crane Hermit stood in the stands. Handing Tao over, Tien said, I don't want to see either of you ever again. You'll pay for this, Shen spat as he took off, carrying Tao away. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice echoed through the stadium. Our last match ended rather dramatically, but thanks to Tian's skills, the situation was defused. Now, we present the returning champion, Kakarot, facing off against the newcomer, Chi-Chi. Kakarot took a calm fighting stance across from Chi-Chi. He wasn't worried about this match. He knew that the girl couldn't match him in combat. Still, he wanted to let her down gently, without being too rough. You may begin, the announcer declared. Chi-Chi charged at Kakarot, throwing punches with all her might. Kakarot effortlessly dodged each blow, moving his head from side to side. He almost felt sorry for her. She was so determined to prove herself, but the gap in their abilities was too wide. In the crowd, Chomper observed Kakarot with a keen eye. His instincts had paid off. Kakarot was definitely the Sen he had been searching for. The tail wrapped around Kakarot's waist was a clear sign, along with his Saiyan name. Despite being on the run from Lord Frieza, this Kakarot wasn't hiding his identity well, at least not here on this remote planet. Chomper pulled out a scouter and fixed it to his eye. Let's see how strong this Sen actually is, he muttered. The scouter read 200. This will be easier than I thought, he chuckled. The bounty on Sens was as good as his. This little tournament made it almost too easy. All he had to do was knock Kakarot out and deliver him to Lord Frieza. Back in the ring, Chi-Chi continued her relentless assault, but Kakarot dodged each punch and kick with ease, not even breaking a sweat. Finally, Chi-Chi stopped, panting heavily. How can I not hit you? She gasped. It's simple, Kakarot said with a smile. I'm much faster than you. He then vanished from her sight and reappeared behind her, gently grabbing her from behind. Moving quickly, he dashed to the edge of the ring and let her go, allowing her to land softly on the grass. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the announcer boomed. Chi-Chi has been thrown out of the ring by Kakarot. Let's give her a round of applause for having the courage to go up against the two-time champion of the world. The crowd erupted in cheers, applauding Chi-Chi's bravery. A short while later, the announcer's voice rang out again. Are you ready for the next fight? On one side of the ring, we have the accomplished fighter Krillin. Facing off against Krillin is the newcomer Junior. Both have shown themselves to be incredible fighters in the preliminary rounds. Kakarot watched intently as Piccolo, the spawn of the Demon King, faced off against his friend Krillin. He believed Krillin could hold his own, but he knew Piccolo might have some surprises up his sleeve. Likewise, he was curious to see what new techniques Krillin might have developed over the past few years. Ready? Fight! The announcer declared. Krillin wasted no time, charging at Junior with a rapid flurry of kicks and punches. The Green Warrior blocked each attack with ease, countering with punches of his own, which Krillin expertly deflected. After a few intense seconds, the two fighters separated, each assessing the other. Not bad, Krillin said, grinning. This will be a good fight, but I think it's time I go all out. Fine, Junior replied, smirking. I won't hold back either. Hope you're ready for this. The fighters clashed again, their movements a blur. Krillin vanished from sight, leaving Junior's fist to hit only an after-image. Reappearing behind Junior, Krillin drove his knee into Junior's back, sending him flying. Krillin didn't let up, shooting after Junior and landing blow after powerful blow. Junior winced, feeling the impact of Krillin's relentless assault. Gathering his strength, he shot up into the air, out of Krillin's reach. But Krillin followed, launching another series of attacks. This brief respite was all Junior needed to regain his composure and block Krillin's punches. They separated again, floating above the ring and staring each other down. Junior broke the silence, stretching his arm out to deliver a punch from 10 feet away. Krillin barely dodged the unexpected attack and charged back at Junior, closing the distance and resuming his close-quarters assault. Krillin pressed his advantage, landing a hard right cross to Junior's face, sending him reeling. Determined to end the fight, Krillin cupped his hands at his side. I'm going to end this, he declared. Me, hey. He unleashed a powerful blue energy beam at Junior. Junior raised his hands, catching the blast as it exploded against them. When the smoke cleared, his clothes were slightly tattered, but he was otherwise unhurt. The demon laughed. Is that the best you've got? He taunted. That's rich coming from a guy who's getting beat up, Krillin shot back. All right, Junior said, his tone serious. I'm through playing around. He reached up, removing his heavy cape and letting it fall to the ground with a resounding thud. He's been doing all that while wearing weights? Yamcha said in disbelief. It appears so, Kakarot commented. It's a good way to train, after all. Something's bothering me about Junior, Tien said, joining the conversation. He looks like he might be one of Piccolo's minions. He's not a minion, Kakarot said. He's the reincarnation of King Piccolo himself. What? Tien and Yamcha exclaimed in unison. From what I was told, Kakarot explained, when I defeated King Piccolo, He put all his energy into transferring his essence into an egg. That egg hatched and became Junior. So we have to stop him, Tien said. There's a problem with that, Kakarot replied. If Junior is destroyed, then Kami will be destroyed as well. Then what do we do? Yamcha asked, concerned. Well, Kakarot said, Piccolo is here for a reason. He sees me as a threat and wants to eliminate me before he can rule the world. Once he realizes he can't win, hopefully, he'll give up on his world domination plans. Besides, it's not Piccolo I'm really worried about. You're not worried about Piccolo? Yamcha said in disbelief. Not really, Kakarot replied. I can beat him easily if he makes it to the finals. That's right. He'll have to face me before that, Yamcha boasted confidently. No, Kakarot corrected, shaking his head. While you might stand a chance against Piccolo, I don't think you'll make it that far. Chomper is incredibly strong. Back in the ring, Junior charged at Krillin with renewed speed and strength. Before reaching him, Junior extended his arm, stretching it to grab Krillin from 10 feet away. He pulled hard, slamming Krillin's face into his knee. Krillin staggered from the blow but quickly recovered, sending a punch into Junior's abdomen. Junior blocked the punch, catching Krillin's fist with his large green hand. Krillin countered with a swift kick to Junior's stomach, doubling the Green Warrior over. Before Junior could recover, Krillin drove an elbow into Junior's neck, sending him crashing into the ring. Junior shot up from where he landed, launching a powerful kick to Krillin's face and sending him flying across the ring. Gathering energy, Junior fired a beam after the airborne Krillin, causing an explosion in midair. Krillin emerged from the dust cloud, still flying out of control, before hitting the wall and sliding down into the grass outside the ring. It appears that Junior is the winner, the announcer declared. He will move on to the next round. Next up, we have Yamcha and Chomper. Can we have both contestants report to the ring? Kakarot grabbed Yamcha by the shoulder. Be careful, he told his friend. Sure, Yamcha said with a half grin. I can handle myself. A few minutes later, Yamcha stood across from Chomper as the next match was about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer said, in one corner we have Yamcha, a seasoned fighter, and in the other, we have Chomper, a newcomer. Which one of these fighters will come out the winner? Chomper stared at Yamcha. Show me what you've got, he said. I'll try not to hurt you too badly. You talk pretty big, Yamcha replied, taking a fighting stance. Well, when you can back it up, you're allowed to talk big, Chomper retorted. You may begin, the announcer said. Yamcha charged at Chomper, unleashing a flurry of kicks and punches. I'll show you a thing or two, he declared. I'm sure you will, Chomper said, dodging every one of Yamcha's attacks effortlessly. Now, show me what you've really got. Junior grimaced as he watched the two fighters, or more accurately, as he saw Chomper playing with Yamcha. I'll have to watch that one, he thought. He may be a threat. A few minutes later, Yamcha was panting from exertion. How come I can't hit you? He gasped. You're weak, Chomper answered honestly. It seems to be a common trait with your species. I'll show you weak, Yamcha declared. He turned his hand palm up and concentrated. In seconds, a small ball of energy formed, floating above his hand. With a determined look, Yamcha hurled the ball at Chomper. The energy attack tracked almost perfectly, but Chomper moved so fast that it zipped past him, heading straight for the crowd. Yamcha quickly used 2 fingers to direct the attack, causing it to change course midair and head back towards Chomper. This time, the warrior didn't move. Instead, he backhanded the attack, sending it flying back at Yamcha at blinding speed. The attack hit Yamcha squarely, sending him crashing hard into the ring. Bruised and battered from his own attack, Yamcha struggled to his feet. Chomper laughed. Are you done yet, weakling? I'll show you weak, Yamcha repeated, charging at Chomper again. But this time, Chomper was done playing. With a single backhand, he sent Yamcha flying into the wall, where he hit hard and slid down to the grass, unconscious. Well, the announcer said, it appears that Chomper has defeated Yamcha in an astonishing match. He will face off against Junior in the semi-finals after Kakarot faces off against Tien. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer continued, we have the rematch of the century for you today. Kakarot and Tien went toe-to-toe in the finals of the last tournament, and now we have them facing off against each other again today. Which one of these incredible fighters will be victorious? Tien faced Kakarot in the ring. Are you ready for this? He asked the Saiyan. Ready when you are, Kakarot replied with a confident smile. Chomper watched the fight in anticipation. He hit his scouter. The Saiyan is at 200 and his opponent is at 400, he thought. Maybe this Tien would knock out his prize for him, and he wouldn't even have to fight the Saiyan after all. As long as he brought a Saiyan back alive, the bounty was the same. Chomper laughed to himself. It didn't really matter whether Tien knocked out the Saiyan for him or if he had to do it himself. It's not like it would be a challenge anyway. The crocodile-like fighter laughed and went to get a refreshment. He hardly needed to watch this fight after all. He already knew who would win. The little Saiyan didn't stand a chance. "You may begin," the announcer said. With those words, Tien shot at Kakarot, throwing a flurry of kicks and punches at the young Saiyan, testing his defenses. To his surprise, Kakarot moved out of the way of them all with the same ease he had shown when fighting Chi-Chi. How is he so fast, Tien thought. He had worked so hard over the past 3 years to improve his speed, hoping to gain an advantage over Kakarot, but it seemed it had all been in vain. Tien redoubled his efforts, sending his blows with more ferocity than before, but he couldn't lay a finger on the young Saiyan. "Is that all you've got?" Kakarot said, dodging a fist and jumping over a kick, flipping easily out of Tien's reach. Tien considered his options for a moment. He could use the multiform technique, but he had tried that in the last tournament, and Kakarot had easily countered it, showing that it weakened him by dividing his power among the clones. Tien dismissed that idea instantly. It hadn't worked before, and it certainly wouldn't work now. He briefly considered using the tri-beam cannon, but he doubted he could hit Kakarot with it given the boy's newfound speed. In fact, he couldn't think of anything that would be effective against Kakarot, but he had to try something. Tien phased out of sight, leaving only an after-image behind, moving with all the speed he could muster, hoping to avoid detection by the younger fighter. The Triclops reappeared behind Kakarot with a kick aimed right at the Saiyan's head, but his attack hit only air. "Nice try," Kakarot said from behind Tien. "But I grow tired of this." The young Saiyan shot a fist out just as Tien began to turn with an attack of his own. The punch landed squarely in Tien's stomach, doubling him over and sending him to his knees before he collapsed to the ground. "It appears that Kakarot has knocked Tien out with a single punch," the announcer said. "We'll start the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Kakarot is the winner." Chomper returned with a corndog and a drink just in time to see the young Saiyan walking down from the ring while his opponent lay unconscious. What? How'd he win that fight? It should have been a slaughter for his opponent. Across the stadium, Junior watched the fight as well. He wasn't surprised by the outcome but by the quickness of his rival. The boy had moved faster than even he could follow at times. He seriously doubted that he could even touch the young man in combat. How had he gotten so strong? After King Piccolo had been defeated, Junior had trained almost non-stop to surpass Kakarot. He wanted revenge and to rule the planet, but he was starting to have doubts about whether that would actually happen. He might have to bide his time and redouble his efforts to get stronger than the boy. Kakarot sat in the stands next to his future wife, Chi-Chi, and relaxed as he waited for the next fight. He was interested to see what both Chomper and Junior could do, but he figured he could watch from here just as well as anywhere. Bulma squeezed his hand beside him and smiled. His heart melted at seeing her smile after 3 years of not seeing her. He had thought it would be awkward, but they had reconnected almost instantly. "So, who do you think is going to win this one?" Bulma asked, interrupting his pleasant thoughts and putting his mind back on the fight that was about to start. "Chomper is by far more powerful," Kakarot replied. "I don't think Junior stands a chance." "Piccolo?" Roshi asked from behind him. "Junior is the reincarnation of King Piccolo," Kakarot explained. "He's here for revenge and wants to rule the planet." "Not again," Roshi groaned. "We have to stop him." "No," Kakarot said, shaking his head. "He wants to test the waters first. He won't try anything unless he's sure he's the strongest." "No need to worry then, right?" Bulma said, squeezing one of Kakarot's biceps. "You can beat him, can't you?" "I won't have to," Kakarot replied, finally answering her first question. "Chomper won't let him get to the finals." Before Kakarot could elaborate, the announcer's voice echoed through the arena. "Ladies and gentlemen, in the last fight of the semi-finals, we have Junior versus Chomper. One of these amazing fighters will go on to face Kakarot for the title in the finals." Junior took a defensive stance as he faced off against Chomper. He could tell this fighter was no one to trifle with and wanted to be on his guard. "Ready, begin," the announcer declared. Junior shot at Chomper, forming a ball of energy in each hand. As he drew near, he launched one and then the other at the crocodile-like fighter at point-blank range. The attacks flew true and exploded on contact. When the dust settled, Chomper stood unharmed, laughing. "Is that all you've got?" The crocodile shot at Junior so fast that the demon couldn't even follow his movements. In an instant, Chomper appeared in front of Junior, his snout inches from the demon's face. "What makes you think you can take me on?" he sneered. Junior swung a fist at his opponent, but Chomper caught it easily. The crocodile squeezed, causing a crunching sound as Junior's knuckles cracked. Chomper shoved his opponent to the ground and laughed. "You're pathetic," Junior fumed. He wanted so badly to teach this guy a lesson, but he couldn't touch him. His energy blast, which would have vaporized most opponents, had no effect. Before he could react, Chomper's elbow was in his face, sending him flying into the wall where he landed with a thud and slid into the grass. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the announcer said. Chomper is the winner by ringing out. He will face off against Kakarot in the finals. In the stands, Kakarot pulled his undershirt over his head and dropped it on the ground with a thud. Soon his boots and wristbands followed. This weighs a ton, Bulma said, trying to lift the shirt and struggling with its weight. Yeah, Kakarot said with a smile. It was good for training, but I have a feeling I'm going to need to be at my best for the next fight. That's it for this episode, guys. If you've watched to the end, then that may be an indication that you enjoy the episode, so please drop a like so the video could reach more people. See you in the next episode. Take care.